The economy was the main focus of the Republican presidential debate last night as the candidates tried to sell their plans to get America back to work.
And Gordon, the presidential hopefuls also got the chance to question each other. Jennifer Wishon has the look at the debate from Hanover, New Hampshire.
At the debate from Bloomberg Television and the Washington Post, the first question went to Herman Cain, whose rise in the polls gave him a prominent seat between Mitt Romney and Rick Perry. It also helped make him and his 999 economic plan popular targets.
I think it's a catchy phrase. In fact, I thought it was the price of a pizza when I first heard about it.
One thing I would say is when you take the 999 plan and you turn it upside down, I think the devil's in the details.
999 will pass, and it is not the price of a pizza because it has been well studied and well developed. It starts with, unlike your proposals, throwing out the current tax code. Continuing to pivot off the current tax code is not going to boost this economy.
Then, when candidates could ask each other questions, Cain took his to Romney.
Can you name all 59 points in your 160-page plan? And does it satisfy that criteria of being simple, transparent, efficient, fair, and neutral?
Herman, I've had the experience in my life of taking on some tough problems. And I must admit that simple answers are always very helpful, but oftentimes inadequate.
Herman Cain has surged in the polls and is now running second to Mitt Romney here in New Hampshire. But political insiders say if he wants to maintain that momentum, he better beef up his campaign in a hurry. Because at the end of the day, Republicans are looking for the candidate they believe can beat President Obama.
Herman Cain has been here once since the beginning of August. That's not how you win New Hampshire. He has two staffers in the state. Neither one have had any experience in any New Hampshire campaigns at all.
Romney went into the debate with a major boost.
Thanks, Chris.
The endorsement of New Jersey Governor Chris Christie.
You can't get the country to go in the right direction and get Washington to work if you don't have a president that's a leader.
Rick Perry will release his economic plan over the next few days. Phase 1, greater energy independence.
We're sitting on this absolute treasure trove of energy in this country. And I don't need 999. We don't need any plan to pass Congress. We need to get a president of the United States that is committed to passing the types of regulations, pulling the regulations back, freeing this country to go develop the energy industry that we have in this country.
Rick Santorum says the best help for the least of those among us starts at home.
The biggest problem with poverty in America, we don't talk about here because it's an economic discussion. And that is the breakdown of the American family.
Conservative crowd pleaser Ron Paul stuck to his libertarian guns.
And we have to understand that a free market system and sound money gives us the prosperity, and it also is the humanitarian program, because once you get into the welfare state and the socialist state, it all backfires.
Although Romney leads in the Granite State, a University of New Hampshire poll shows only 1/10 of Republicans have settled on a candidate.
If you're Mitt Romney today, you have to like the lead you have in this very important state of New Hampshire. At the same time, you have to be very nervous that anything can change on a dime.
Jennifer Wishon, CBN News, reporting from New Hampshire.
Well, anything can change on a dime in this race. The number of undecideds is a record level going into this primary season, so anything can happen. And we're seeing front-runners seem to change on a weekly basis. The amazing thing to me is the ratings for these debates, where you have 6 million Americans watching live and then another 6 million watching later on the internet. So it's definitely getting a lot of interest. This is going to be the hottest presidential race, I think, in the history of the United States. Lee Webb has the rest of our top stories from the CBN Newsroom. Lee?
Gordon, Congress and the White House are trying to figure out now their next step now that President Obama's jobs bill has died in the Senate. The president had campaigned for the bill around the country, but Republicans and 2 Democrats oppose the measure, and more Democrats say they would vote against the bill if it had made it to the full Senate. The administration and congressional leaders are considering breaking the bill up now into smaller pieces that might have a chance to pass. Mixed emotions in Israel today after the Israeli cabinet approved a deal with Hamas for the release of a captive Israeli soldier. Gilad Shalit was abducted in a cross-border raid back in 2006. He's been in Hamas captivity in Gaza for more than 5 years. But the price of his freedom is high. 1,000 terrorists will be released in exchange. 1/3 of them serving life sentences for some of the worst terrorist attacks in Israel's history. Hamas hailed the deal as an historic victory. In Gaza, Palestinians took to the streets in celebration. Netanyahu tells his people it was not clear there would be another window of opportunity to free Shalit. The Obama administration is looking for international sanctions on Iran after foiling an alleged terror plot by the Iranian government. The FBI says Iran planned to assassinate Saudi Arabia's ambassador to the U.S. and bomb the Saudi and Israeli embassies in Washington. Iranian officials are calling the allegations, quote, childish, but the administration plans to use the charges to help isolate Iran. Secretary of State Hillary Clinton tells AP the plot crosses a line that Iran needs to be held to account for. And for more on this important story, let's go back to Gordon.
Well, our CBN News terrorism analyst Eric Stakelbeck joins us now from Washington, D.C. Eric, how certain are we that this wasn't some kind of rogue agent, that the Iranians were directly responsible for it?
Yeah, Gordon, I think you're going to hear that a lot over the next few days in certain quarters. But let's be clear. The Iranian Revolutionary Guards Corps, and this was a wing of the Revolutionary Guards that was apparently behind this plot. The Revolutionary Guards answer directly to Iran's supreme leader, Ayatollah Khamenei, the guy who runs the government, runs the country. So I think it's highly, highly unlikely that the Revolutionary Guards would act without the approval of the highest levels of the Iranian government.
Are we able to follow the money here? I mean, the amount of money is large. You're talking about $1.5 million to be paid, and then a $100,000 down payment was made.
Sure.
Any money tracing going on?
They're doing that right now, Gordon. It would appear that the money would go back to, based on everything we've heard, you would think the money would lead back to Tehran, to Iran. Another interesting point here is the fact that they thought they were approaching Mexican drug cartels to carry out this hit against the Saudi ambassador. Gordon, I think that's very interesting, and it really highlights the problem we have on our Mexican border. These Mexican cartels have bomb-making capabilities, have deep pockets, and are very experienced in assassinations. So the fact that the Iranians were approaching these cartels, I think, brings up a very disturbing point for our southern border.
It does seem to argue that we need a stronger force and a stronger way to block that southern border. What's the end game here? Let's say this plot had not been discovered. Let's play hypothetical, and some kind of act of terrorism had gone against the ambassador and the embassy of Israel, the embassy of Saudi Arabia. What does Iran gain by that?
Well, look, their larger ideology, Gordon, the Iranian worldview, in that worldview, Israel is only the little Satan. People need to understand this. America is the great Satan, and America is the ultimate prize in the Iranian worldview. So carrying out this attack, and what a bold, brazen plot. It shows they do not fear us, and the outstretched hand we've extended to them has been slapped away time and time again. This is one more volley in their ultimate goal, Gordon, of world domination. It sounds crazy, sounds conspiratorial, but they really believe this. They do believe that the Islamic Messiah, the Mahdi, as we've discussed many times here on the club, they do believe that he is about to return to earth. They see the so-called Arab Spring, the unrest in the Middle East, as a divine signal from Allah that their time is at hand. The bullseye is squarely on the U.S. Gordon, that's why we see this plot. That's why just last week, an Iranian military official talked about sending submarines off the east coast of the United States. And that's why just last year, our own Pentagon issued a report saying that by 2015, just 3.5 years from now, Iran may very well have intercontinental ballistic missiles that can reach where I'm sitting right now in Washington, D.C. And, Gordon, those missiles will be nuclear tipped. We are the ultimate prize for the mullahs.
What should the U.S. response be right now? If this had been successful, certainly that would have been considered an act of war. So how should we respond to this now that it's been discovered and it's been stopped? what's the appropriate response back to the Iranians?
Well, what we will do, unfortunately, is strong condemnations, more sanctions, trying to get the international community involved. It's going to be toothless. What should be done, and this is a great point we've talked about many times here, Iran cannot refine its own petroleum. For all of their oil wealth and all of their abundance of oil in that country, they cannot refine their own petroleum. We need to knock off their capability to acquire that refined petroleum from other countries. That's one way to really hit them. I think, look, the military option has to be on the table because ultimately, Gordon, the elephant in the room here, this plot was heinous. It's a big deal. But the elephant in the room here ultimately is Iran's nuclear weapons program. They're very, very close to acquiring those weapons. I believe at the end of the day, we will not, at least under this administration, judging by everything I've seen, we will not act militarily against Iran. And just yesterday, Gordon, a Pentagon official said, look, we are not going to react to this plot militarily. I don't think you should telegraph yourself like that to the Iranians. They smell weakness. I believe at the end of the day that Israel will be forced to take action against Iran's nuclear facilities. I think that's the ultimate endgame here.
Well, Eric, whenever I talk to you, I have problems sleeping the following night. Anyway, thanks for being with us. Thanks for the analysis. For those of you watching, we really need to be in prayer. We had a call for prayer for Israel, but we need to pray for our president. We need to pray for those in leadership. This is one of the more, you look at the number of challenges facing our government, our country, and pray for them. Pray that they would have wisdom and pray that we would all be making wise decisions now.
Chinese officials are criticizing a bill that the U.S. Senate passed Tuesday. The bill threatens higher tariffs on Chinese products. Critics say China is keeping its currency artificially low, and that makes its products cheaper. U.S. lawmakers say that's destroying American jobs. China, though, says its currency is not undervalued and that the Senate bill will not help anyone. The House probably will not pass the measure because the Republican leadership in the House does not support it. Muslim missionaries are trying to make converts in Jerusalem. The AP reports about a dozen Arab men have been approaching Jews in the Old City and speaking with them in Hebrew. They've not had any success in converting Jews to Islam, but some say it shows Muslims in Jerusalem's Arab minority are growing bolder. Israel restricts Christian and Muslim efforts to proselytize, but it doesn't forbid it altogether. You can always get the latest from CBN News by going to our website at cbnnews.com.